rotate. Yeah. The cue, as we rehearsed, is when 3PO kind of looks up the headache, then we cut to a still, at which point the music comes in, and then the name Anthony Daniels comes up. That is when we need to say, please welcome Anthony. Do you want to rehearse that?
I'm sure we can rehearse it, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to mime the thing.
Okay.
You've been watching the film, and 3PO, Return of the Jedi, remember that?
Yeah.
He has, oh my goodness. Yeah, so stand by, that's your preview. Oh my goodness. It cuts to a still, which zooms in, at which point the music comes in, my name comes up. That's when you say, please welcome.
When your name comes up.
Yeah, so you can read it?
Absolutely. Certainly.
So are we set up to rotate? Okay, everybody in their number one? No, you weren't like that, sir.
Rolling.
Okay, stand by. Final checks. Cool.
Check.
Okay, and rotate and action.
Did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor. It'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr.
I finally made it. Oh, thank you so much for that. Oh, look at me starring with a bottle of water. Like working with R2-D2, a prop. But this, it kind of does something. I'm going to put it there. Thank you. This is nice. Okay, thank you so much for that double welcome. The thing that amazed me being in Star Wars for the first time, my first film, was we would do a scene, and action, cut, and it was terrible, and then we moving on. And it was the first time I realized what an editor did. The editor cuts out all the rubbish. So I came on, it didn't quite happen, so we cut. We go back to number one, we start again. And the second time we get it right. And that's the bit you see. You also didn't see what the camera doesn't see. If the camera doesn't look at it, you can't see it. Only I can see all the stuff that's going on around, all the people behind the camera, and all the shouting of instructions. You know, okay, do it again faster, and you're in the middle of a scene and nobody said cut. They keep rolling and rolling, and it's really kind of chaos sometimes. The editor and the sound editor put it all together, and you see magic. And so for 45 years next month, you have been watching magic. Who was here the first time around? Who's old enough to have seen? Oh yes, we're all getting older, aren't we? Okay, so a quick test. Some of you have not quite seen all of them, maybe. A little test. 1 to 9, favorite film. Episode 1, hands up. Don't put his hand down. Stand on the chair, stand up on the chair, so we can see you. 1 person, right? episode 2. Thank you. Episode 1, 2. Oh, okay. Is good. We're on the prequels, aren't we? Yeah. Episode 3. Okay, that's the one with the sword fights that were really good. Yeah. Okay, are you ready for this? Episode 4. Oh. Okay, this is the killer, isn't it? Episode 5. Get on with it. Yeah. I'm learning to think. Episode 6. A little too much enjoyment there. Some people get very, very carried away. It's not good for them. Not good for them. I'll see you afterwards, all right? Is he your handler there?
Yeah.
Where have we got to? 6. And of course, what was it? It was 1, 2, 3, 1V, V, and V1. Who knew? What suddenly happened? Okay, calm here. Episode 7. Episode 8.
Oh my God.
Episode
This is horrible.
9. Okay, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my fault. Please don't deactivate me. Episode 9 had lots and lots of good stuff in it, and I had the best time filming. Poor C3PO, bullied and all that kind of thing. His eyes went red and everything like that. I had the best time. But I think there were some people in general did like episode 5 the best. And I'm transitioning. I'm transitioning from 4 to 5. I'm kind of between the two. So maybe you can help me. And you can help me today by maybe joining in, asking questions. Does anybody have a question that they would ask the only living person to be in all 9 episodes plus Rogue One plus Solo, kind of. So here I am, a living legend. I am very grateful to Ian McDermott for being the warm-up guy. So who actually would like to ask a question? And because you are near the front, and I'm old, what is your question?
What
What is your name? Sorry.
Tim. What was the bathroom process like?
9 Star Wars movies, 3 years at drama school. I come here to give you my wisdom and knowledge. And what is the first question I ask? What is the bathroom process? Is this an interest of yours at all?
Had to have a large bladder to play that role, or?
No, they didn't. No large bladder was available to play the role, so they asked me to play it instead. C3PO, played by a large bladder. An extraordinary thought. It probably became Jabba the Hutt. I think that you're right. All those weird things. What was that awful? What was that scene in where Natalie and Hayden were romping around in a field like the sound of music? Remember that? And there was these bladder things. And this really bad. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? If it's going to be on this level, I can't cope for, I'm going to go home. Okay, Johan's, well, okay. Yeah, young sir here. Would you speak into that bit?
How did you get the C3PO voice?
That's an extremely good question. It's so much better than the How old are you?
7 years old.
You're 7 years old, and that was an extremely good question. And how old are you? 22. There you go. Well, thank goodness for the young 7-year-old, well, very mature 7-year-old. How did I come up with a 3PO voice? It's an extremely good question because I have been working on the script for 6 months whilst we made the costume, yeah? And I tried all sorts of voices at home. I am C3PO, human cyborg relation, because Daleks were very big at the time. And I couldn't find anything that really worked. And then on the day, when we'd flown over to Tatooine, I don't want to give away the secrets, it's called the Santa Claus thing. If I start saying it was Tunisia, North Africa, it's going to ruin people's memories for Tatooine. Okay, we'll call it Tatooine. We'd flown over to Tatooine, and I was jet lagged, permanently jet lagged, and we dressed up. I stood in the desert, and it was awful, 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 very tense making. And I knew the script. And then I began to speak. Now, C3PO, human cyborg relations, because he's a very uptight character, and all his musculature is very stiff and sort of tense, not just the suit, but inside that costume. And I heard Ian earlier talking about worrying about his back, because if you stand very tense all day, you have to go out. But 3PO is very tense, and when you're tense, even your throat tightens up. And he is a very polite, uptight character, and he's always nervous of what's happening, nervous for other people. And when you're like that, you can become a bit sort of tight here. And that's where I came up with C3PO, human cyborg relations. Of course, George Lucas, on that very first shot, I couldn't say the lines. Okay, can you say programming binary load lifters? You see, I still can't say it. Why, sir, my first job was programming binary load lifters. I can say it now. Back in the day, but and I didn't know it was my first film. I used to stop on the third take of me messing up. Actually, it was the fourth take. George came out, third take, and then he said, don't worry about the voice. You can say anything you like. We can fix it afterwards. I've never heard of this. You can fix the voice. In theatre, once you're on stage, you can't fix anything. It's live, like here. Yeah? I mean, we managed to fix the beginning, but in a show, you have to muddle through. And it was ages later, 6 months later, that I found he hadn't liked C3PO's voice. He wanted, kind of a more American voice. Enough Americans in the movie already, come on. Let's even out the score. So he tried to replace the voice, but it didn't work. Because 3PO is 3PO. He's the way he looks, he's the way he sounds, and he's the way he thinks. An extremely good question, and I haven't forgotten yours. Another question, possibly from somebody around the 10-year-old mark, because they seem to work better. Anybody in the back seats here? No, I feel I'm out of doubt. Yes, sir.
So early on in Starlog magazines, there were interviews with all the principal players, but then later on in the late 80s, there was finally an interview with you, and you expressed that you weren't allowed to give public viewpoints of anything on your character to maintain the mystique of whether there was a person in there or a robot. So if you were allowed to give interviews in the 70s and 80s in Starlog, what would you express?
Eat your heart out. That was a really good question. Some of you may not know. Some of you may not know that
He's never going to forget that question.
I have written a book. It's on sale here. It is called I Am C3PO, The Inside Story. Yeah. It's available in English, French, Spanish, Japanese, and Korean. We don't have the Korean version here, okay? You can buy the others. And in it I talk about what it was like filming. I don't want to spoil, the film was great when you saw it. To make the film was very, very difficult. Not just for me, certainly for George it was difficult, but I had my own physical issues and all that kind of thing. And I felt kind of alone, really. I mean, it was great working with Mark Hamill because he did actually manage to make you and me think that 3PO was real. But working, I was alone. R2-D2 didn't speak to me. All that sound was put in later. So I was doing 2 performances. I only got paid for 1. It was cool. But then the film opened and it was a huge, huge success, as you know. And then I began to see articles saying, in a scene from Star Wars, Luke Skywalker brackets Mark Hamill, close brackets, with C3PO. I wasn't there. I was never there. And it got to be really quite difficult because I had the biggest part in the movie. I had more lines than anyone else. And I didn't exist as a person. On set, I was willing to pretend to be 3PO, but I needed to live as me. And it took many years, for them to stop pretending that 3PO was real. When you see a thing, the actors are acting. They are, somebody who Ian isn't the Emperor, he's acting the Emperor, doing it very well. I was acting 3PO, but both of us exist as human beings, and they've really denied my humanity, and that was wrong. And I say it very publicly now, in the book. What is the book called?
C3PO.
I suddenly couldn't remember the next one. Yeah, and now it's fine, but at the time it was a little hurtful, because around the world, it was Star Wars. And friends used to say, hey, it must be really good to be in Star Wars. I didn't want to talk about it, because it hurt. And then something changed. Well, we made episode 5, because I nearly didn't do it. And then I realized I was an actor, it was a job, I was paid. But more important than that, I had grown fond of 3PO. He was kind of somebody I needed to take care of, just as he takes care of everybody else. He needs being taken care of. And that's why I have stayed with him. So whether it's a film, a cartoon, a voiceover for this or that, you have my body, my voice, and my brain giving you C3PO. I hope that's all right. This is a danger. Young man at the front here, yes.
I like episode 4 just because of the banter that started, go plug the professor back in the hyperdrive, that sort of thing. 2 questions. What is your favorite person you acted with over the time? And now with SpaceX and all the things we're going into space, is the odds of navigating natural field still 307-20 to 1?
Yeah, okay. I think, the time was that there were just asteroids out there and asteroid fields and all that kind of thing. Now what is scary is there is so much space junk out there that we have already littered the galaxy with. And we've done it, just as we're littering this place. A very serious answer. I'm not sure I want to go into outer space, Yeah, flying here from London on 13 hours or whatever it was, changing via Chicago, running to get a connection. Enough of that. What was your previous question? Who did I enjoy working with? This is a favorite question, but what do I say? If I choose A, then B is going to be insulted, never speak to me again. If I chose M, I'd be lying. You can't like everybody on a set, It's a very tense situation. I would say adored working with Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wonderful, wonderful thing. But actually, that was a long time ago, and Alec isn't with us. Working with Oscar Isaac on this last film was such a joy, and such a shame that so many of our little interludes together, because he used to speak to 3PO a bit like Han Solo, same kind of meanness, but quite a bit kinder. And I used to just be giggling away working with Oscar. Sadly, a lot of those moments have gone because you needed another sword fight. Let's do it. Even I can do it. Bang, 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 bang. Nobody whirls around in real life. You know, if you whirl around, I'm going to stab you in the back. It's easy. He's very, very clever. The best sword fights, oh God, I'm putting people down. The best sword fights were in episode 3 between Ewan and Hayden. They used to get applause every time because they were like balletically athletic. And it was magic to watch it. I can get bored in Laserfight, can't you? We've been there. Some of us have been there, you know, once too often. Okay. I'm doing this without a safety net. I'm walking up and down stairs. At my age, without a safety net, then it's scary. Just as scary as people put it away, because I'm comfortable. Yeah. Young man at the back wearing a lovely shirt.
So why does 3PO have a silver leg?
Oh God, you know the guy over there, don't you? I mean, why does he have a silver leg? Who can answer? Come on, very quickly. I'm on television, look. I'm on. Why does 3PO have a silver leg? Who said that? Me. Me doesn't work. Stand up. Speak. Oh. Stay there, don't touch. Why does he have a silver leg?
Because he's cobbled together.
Because he's cobbled together. Is that it?
That's right.
Okay, you couldn't do an hour on stage, could you? Because he's cobbled together.
Yes.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yes. And
There's more. Yeah. Speak to the camera.
what would I say?
No, what would you say? You started off with, I was cobbled.
Oh, yeah, it's well simple enough. I mean, your parts. Your. You know, a better question might be. Where's the heart?
No, it's not. Where's the heart? I love this. What's your name?
Tim.
Do you know him? Wasn't your name Tim? Yeah. See, 2 Tims. How different would they be? That's your question. Where's the heart of C3PO? How different would that?
Well, I love you.
That was the nicest thing. Thank you.
All right, I can do that for now.
Oh, back in the day, maybe, but come to this side now. That was a lovely thing to say. But we can maybe talk about 3PO's heart and so on. The fact that he has approached other people's hearts over the years, that he has touched people in ways I didn't know until, you know, I come to something like this and somebody will say how much 3PO has meant to them emotionally as an image, as a character, as a friend in the distance on the screen, as somebody they could relate to in difficult times and so on. But we'll come back to maybe more serious. What was the question before that? Because your answer, oh, the silver leg, but I like your answer much better. We should go on stage together. The silver leg. You're absolutely right, he was cobbled together. It's like, you know, you have an old car that you can't get a new one, so you buy a fender from a repair shop or something like that. And of course that was fine, nobody really noticed. Until of course we come to episode 7, where, you know, I see the script, and it says 3PO has a red arm. Why? Because he was cobbled together. He was cobbled together. It was to show, to mimic the silver leg with a different limb, an arm, and a different color. The trouble was it was bright red and like irrelevant. And every day on the set, I would say to Jake, because we argued about it, no, it's red, it's going to be red. I even faked one that looked like a Band-Aid with, I did in Photoshop with rivets and so on, that yes, he'd been wounded, he had a sticking plaster on. It was kind of subtle, and he's red arm. And every day on the set, I would say to him, no forgiveness, and he'd laugh and whatever. And I even had buttons, it's in the book. Did I say I'd written a book? I'm just checking. It's in the book. I had buttons made, no forgiveness, with the red arm and whatever. And if you look if you dare to watch that film again, episode 7, at the end of the film, as we're waving goodbye to the Millennium Falcon, there is 3PO in front of all the rest of the crew, waving with a gold arm, because JJ finally gave him the present back of his gold arm. And he should be gold, shouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So good question. Good question. I will now walk amongst you again. And yes, young, just stand up. Let's try it.
So when you shot the Geonosis battle scene in episode 2, what was that like where you had the head on one battle droid and battle droid's head on yours?
Okay. Do we remember that seminal scene
Yes.
in, what was it called? Return of what? Attack of the Clones. Where I had one head replaced by another. It was painful. A lot of surgery, obviously, you see the scars, the wrinkles, whatever. Of course, it was done digitally. We shot the scene with me dressed up normally, and then ILM just photoshopped a different head onto it, because we were heavily into the world of digital. Do you remember that? You know, it was the new kid on the block. Everything's got to be green screen and tedious and overwrought and everything. And kind of I wasn't terribly, the idea was great, but at that point, if you watch it again, you will see that the digital effects are a little queasy making. There's a bit where 3PO falls off the high place. It's some of the worst digital stuff I've ever seen, and I felt really embarrassed for the character. But for the most part, you can do a lot with digital, and it's grown up. Most of the films you see have stuff that is digitally created using green screen and blue screen, but you can't tell because it's not in your face like it was back in the day. But always when you invent something new, people overdo it. Ian was talking about being at drama school. When I was at drama school, we had a theatre a bit bigger than this, and one day they installed a revolving stage. A centre of the stage you could go around. From then, every production had to have you suddenly ringing off for no apparent reason. You know, you can overdo things. So it wasn't bad at all. Digital in the right place is great. Another question. Yes, sir. You could stand up. Let's see if we can hear you.
Outside of the major motion pictures, what is one of your oddest or most memorable experience as C3PO in a public event or Sesame Street or anything where it wasn't in the movie?
Oh yeah, you know, what was my most extraordinary experience? Not in the movie. And actually, it was being in Sesame Street because, wow, what a bunch of good guys there in New York, the educational TV channel. It was magic. And every one of them, Frank Oz, Jim Henson, whatever, put their souls into the characters. And of course, one of the best things was being on the Muppet Show with Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy, you know, terrible attitude. And when, what was it called? Aboard the Swan track, yes. What? Pigs in Space! Yeah, oh, it was, didn't I tap dance on the, yeah, I tap dance on the Muppet Show. It's in the book. And I watched, you can see it on YouTube, and I wing around that set. And I remember we did it 6 times for different reasons, and I'm just amazed that I was kind of bouncing around. Couldn't do it now. Well, we do it digitally, of course. And then some tap dancing on the Muppet Show. And of course, when 3PO tap dances on stage, there's this sort of weird plastic creaking going on. It's why we have to redo a lot of the sound on the film. So 3PO's in a scene. Sometimes the sound guy will, can you not move in this? Because you're making a noise. So he wanted 3PO to stand totally like this whilst other people spoke. That's, you know, I should be allowed to act. So I went, no, I can't. I've got to keep moving. So we replaced all the sound there. And what did they do to give me tap shoes on the Muppet Show? Yes, the sound guy came in later when we were dubbing it, and he had a tin tray and a teaspoon. Anyway, and that's what you hear if you watch all that. But the Muppet Show lives in my memory. Sir, can you speak to me from there in the white sunglasses?
I will try.
You will try. There is no try. Sit down. Right. isn't it? Oh, I thought you were just smelling your armpit? What? I mean, it's like your hand was halfway up here. Okay. Young lady there with the spectacles. Please stand up. People want to see you. We want to see you.
What is your opinion of the holiday special?
These are good questions. The holidays, anybody actually watch the holidays? You can see the whole thing on YouTube. It is there. I defy you to watch the whole thing. It is unspeakably awful. I was on it for 2 or 3 days, and it lives in my memory. It was the first and last thing that got Disney took over, got away from George Lucas. Nobody kind of watched what was happening, and it was horrible. And again, the digital effects you watch. At one point, there's a bunch of Wookiees who are going to Life Day, or whatever. And they've just been planted digitally or photoshopped onto, Photoshop, it was whatever. And it is in my memory horror bank, actually. And people say bad enough to watch because it's so bad, but actually it's not. Do not watch. You should have a health warning. You're still a man with spectacles. Did you have a question?
Yes, and I will do it this time. In the book, do you speak
in the what?
In your book.
In my what?
Your book.
In my book?
Which is available in 6 languages.
Available in 6 languages? You're good. I take it back. We've never worked together before, have we? No, you're just good.
No.
In my book.
You speak of your favorite merchandise, the C3PO tape dispenser. Do you?
Yes. In my book there are pictures, which is why all of you can get the book, because you can. But in there is some of my favourite merchandise, like the giant Pez dispenser, the gold Pez dispenser, which I love. But the big thing was the tape dispenser. There's a picture in the book of the tape dispenser, because I'm not sure if we can demonstrate here, but in the book you can see 3PO lying on his back, resting on a piece of furniture, with his knees in the air, slightly parted, and stuck between a roll of tape. Sticky tape. It's kind of thing, as I say, that should be in a gynecologist's office. Or, of course, the reverse one with paper around the back in a proctologist's office. But they have merchandised, as you know, the heck out of Star Wars. Back in the day, there was very little merchandise, and 1 or 2 people have brought some of the original stuff here, which is really good. But only Empire Strikes Back then began to overload, and a lot of you were wearing, you have at home all sorts of plastic stuff that I love. Why do people want to take home a lightsaber? Why do you think? I have a theory. I'm good. Darling, put it down. Or are you pleased to see me? I remember you. Can't get it. My theory is that you have such a good experience on screen that you want to bring it into your home. You want to relive a little aide-memoire, a souvenir to remember. And one of the most exciting things they invented was the lightsaber. So yes, people do have it. Why people want to have a stuffed Ewok at home is completely beside. Although they say a good Ewok is a stuffed Ewok. Who says that? Oh, very good. Yeah, okay. People never. Yes? Come on. What's your problem? Okay, I changed my mind. I love the Ewoks. I love them. Another question. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, if you
were going to say.
If there is any Star Wars character that you didn't have a chance to act alongside in a scene, who you would have?
Oh, who I wish I cut you off there. Was there anybody, Star Wars character that I could have worked along with? No, I'm thinking that. I never got to, I would have liked to work with Peter Cushing because he was such an icon of weird horror movie stuff and a very serious actor that became quite niche in the horror world. What I did love was later on, when we came back to the prequels, and there was Sam Jackson and Ewan McGregor, and they're both saying, I can't believe I'm in a scene with C3PO. And I'm thinking, I can't believe it. Sam Jackson and Ewan McGregor. So they were the loveliest people, and I'm thrilled that Ewan is coming back as whatever it is. Yeah. Young lady there, would you stand up and then in your best projected voice, tell me your question.
What was the most challenging part of becoming C3PO?
What was the most challenging? Are you listening there? She's about 6 years old and she comes out with gems like, what was the most challenging? And it would be quite challenging. I love it when actors say, it was really challenging. Oh, I had to write one. No, you were being paid, darling. You're an actor. Just get on with it. Right. Don't bump into the furniture and don't complain. Challenging. Yes, it's challenging. One of the biggest challenges was, if I think about it, I kind of mentioned it earlier, in the 6 months it took to make the costume, and I had the script, which changed, day by day, got better and so on. And all this conversation between 3PO and R2-D2, back and forth, and I would read this, and it said R2 beeps a reply, or he blats a response, or whatever. And I would read this, and it never occurred to anybody, believe it or not, until day one of shooting, that and I'm there, and the first thing with R2, actually was no dialogue, it didn't say anything. But the second day, I'm out doing stuff, and they say, oh no, R2 doesn't make any noise. What? I'm acting on my own with this thing. So, where are you going? Well, what makes you think there are settlements over there? But that is much too rocky. Go that way, you'll be malfunctioning, etc. Oh, I'm crazy. I mean, I'm not hearing voices in my head. I mean, I was crazy in a different way. But I very quickly cottoned on to the fact that I had to imagine in my head what it was saying. And when I saw the finished film, and Ben Burt had put in all those twiddly bits and things, it was like, and you believe that was happening on the set? No, it wasn't. I had to learn all the words. Because normally if you have a conversation, what you say, not in your case obviously, but it encourages me to respond, it helps me on the way. So that was the most challenging part, okay? What was your question? You see, I'm kind, I humiliate, but then I give.
If you could do it all again and pick any Star Wars character, would you still be C3PO?
If I could do it all again, would I be C3? Would I still be C3PO? Oh God! I did a job the other day in. I'm not going to tell them what it's about. I did a job in a mocap suit. So there I am doing something, and I can see I'm wearing a motion capture suit, which is a black suit with dots or Velcro on it, colored Velcro, and the computer picks up that idea and puts it through a lot of processing, and on the screen I can see 3PO a nanosecond after I go 3PO as me in a suit. I can see 3PO doing it. I kept moving away. No, had to stay on camera. It's pretty good. I would love to be 3PO permanently in a motion capture suit, because I could really be the character then. Because I don't need the suit to be C3PO. When I'm dubbing stuff in a radio studio, sound studio, so many times visitors or the engineer who said, I can see the suit, you're really C3PO, aren't you? And I go, well, today perhaps, but not always. I have days off. But that's the honest answer. Yes, young man, just come to the front, because then you can be on television. Come here. Do not fall off the step. You're very good at that. What's your name?
Luke.
Children, dogs, they say. Children and dogs. Right. Okay. Hello, Luke. Hi, I'm C3PO. You're in cyborg relations. Say something. Yeah.
Hi.
That's why you have scriptwriters. What is your question? Thank you for coming in costume, by the way. Very. What was your problem, huh? Next time, you know, it's kind of fun for everybody to come in costume. Obviously not in my case. Do you think next time this happens, come in costume as your favorite character? Okay, Luke.
What was your viewpoint on Star Wars before it hit theaters and you were working on it?
Whoa. Again. Listen and learn. What was my viewpoint on Star Wars? Well, we shot it in 1976. I met George in 1975. So in 1976, we spent the first part of the year making it physically. Then they took everything back to California and did the digital and the sound. And it came out, as you know, some of you, in 1977. Well, we're on the set shooting this stuff, and I'm saying things like, well, give me a line on what was 3PO said back in then. R2-D2, just you reconsider playing what's inside your rusty image. Yeah? No, I don't think he likes you at all. No, I don't like you either. The garage scene, couldn't you, on Tatooine? Mark, just Luke, not you. Luke has gone up to have blue milk. Where did that come from? What was your question? Oh, my view. And all of us on set, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, would be saying our lines, which we had learnt. And we're going, well, you know what Harrison said about it. We said the lines properly because we were proper actors and we've been signed to be proper actors, we paid and everything. But we were all kind of wincing at what we were saying. You couldn't see I was wincing because I was behind a mask. Okay. But we all thought it was not very good. And the British crew, made in England, you don't know that, Star Wars was made in England. The British crew are going, what on earth is this about? And Alec Guinness is going, well, George Lucas is a very nice young man, but I have no idea. That's a really bad impression. Let me just Obi-Wan Kenobi. I have no idea what this film is about. Yes. He didn't know. None of us knew what it was about. The only person who believed in him, seriously, was George Lucas. And by then he'd already taken his script around every studio in Hollywood to say, will you make my film? And they go, no. Finally, he found Fox Studios, 20th Century Fox, who would make it. And George just kept on and on going forward. There were arguments. The lighting, the man who does the lighting makes the thing look like a film, just thought it was rubbish. They had big arguments, how to light it and everything. Everybody disagreed. The actors all got on well, and we were paid to say this rubbish. And we said the rubbish. And some of us got rubbish pay. Other people, not so much. And then it came out, and why were we wrong? As you know, George was right all the time. So huge praise to George, because without him, none of us would be here, and you would not have been called Luke. Our time, very shortly, will be even shorter. You're meant to go, ah. Ah. More feeling. Ah. So, what was your question again? I haven't forgotten. Curiously, it did take me back to when people could ask me questions. The first questions would be, was it hard on the costume? Did you make a lot of money out of the movie? How'd you go to the bathroom? People used to ask me. And because apparently with space astronauts, it's the first question they get asked. How do you go to the bathroom in zero gravity? Apparently it's quite difficult. But when people could ask me questions, you know, you read things in the paper and you believe them. People, I've been interviewed by some, you tell them something, they ignore it, they write something else. But one of my favorites was, how do you get in the costume? Because, you know, you look a little tall. Oh, you played the other one. Oh, I see. I'm serious. Okay, but seriously, I mentioned it earlier. I'm genuinely surprised from a few years back now when people have come up to me at an event like this and said how important Star Wars is, and specifically how important that character, that gold character, that nervous, caring, heart-loving character, how much it's meant to them. Maybe they have social issues somewhere on the spectrum. Maybe they are living in terrifying circumstances, like the Iraq War, for instance. And I'm quite serious that people have come and said, Star Wars, and particularly 3PO, is a refuge from fighting, from being scared, frightened. Because they're soldiers, they're not allowed to be frightened. Imagine everything. And I loved it when a little boy, well, it was a man who said, as a little boy, he had watched Star Wars from behind the sofa in the sitting room because he could duck behind it if a scary bit happened. I think we all did that at one point in our lives. And then he realized that the character on screen, the gold character, was scared too, and he was there. And suddenly it was okay to be scared, to not man up, to not be a grown-up, be grown up, stop being scared. No, if you're scared, be scared. Being scared is a good thing. It's called, you know, a safety device. It protects us. But somehow 3PO had stopped this young kid being ashamed of being afraid. And I felt really good about that. The Star Wars can deliver something more than a stuffed Ewok and that it can give a bit of heart to the galaxy. And I'm going to remind you that without you, there would have been one film only, but because of you, there have now been, for better or not so better, there have been 9 of the movies. And R2. And thank you for being a whole part of it. And I'll see you again. Thank you.